Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings. Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast from Practical E-Commerce, hosted by entrepreneur Eric Bandholz.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Bandholz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. Hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, David, welcome.
Hi, how are you? I love the preview.
Doing well, man. You got to bring the energy, got to make it a little interesting. Tell our listeners, who the heck are you?
All right, so I'm David Sasson. I'm with OverstockArt.com. We've been around for about a little over 20 years, so we are kind of an ancient in e-commerce company. Not a lot of us that are that old. Our main, the quick way to say what we do is we sell art online. Our main product line is a hand-painted oil painting, and it's a reproduction of Van Gogh, Monet, Renoir, artists of that caliber, and we reproduce them by hand, and the customers can choose the frame that they want. We do all the framing in our facility in Wichita, Kansas, and then ship to consumers all over the country.
There's a lot of questions I have in regard to this. I mean, because this is such an interesting business model, and I would imagine to be like very challenging. Have you looked into like AI for these paintings at all, or are they all humans?
They are all human. We've been kind of experimenting with some ideas with AI and art
robotics,
creation.
I guess, is a better word, but
yeah, they have some things that could do this now, but really where we experimented is just creating the imagery. So one of the ideas that we have and have not implemented yet is the idea of having a customer go to our site, prompt in a few different ways what they want, and then have the AI create art that is specific for them, and then we would paint it for them or print it, because we do prints as well, or print it for them. So that's kind of something that we thought about. We thought about the whole idea of using the AI to create different marketing things with the art imagery, but there are some limitations on what the AI companies would do so that they don't infringe on copyrights and things like that. There is the ethics of art, so we've got to kind of be cautious with all that.
I find it kind of interesting. So I mean, looking at your website, these are like images everyone knows, like Mona Lisa or, Starry Night.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, obviously, people are going to know these are reproductions if you walk into a house and you see the Mona Lisa. But, I wonder if you've gone down this road, is just like giving them different color palette options. So it's not like an exact reproduction, but it's like, I want Starry Night in a, like black and white vibe or monochromatic or something like that. Has that been a thing that you've tested before, or?
We've done a little bit of that, where there's two things that we've done around the same idea. One is Van Gogh is a painting called Branches of an Almond Tree, and we've done that one with a number of different colors. For some reason, that's the one we've done the most with different colors and tested it. Initially, we did one in red. This is quite a few years ago. Initially, the red one outsold the original, which was interesting. It's the first time that happened to us. And so there's definitely something to it. We've done things with highlights of gold and silver. So metallics of gold and silver that really that really went well. And then we've done things where we take Starry Night and another Van Gogh painting, and we have a designer kind of put them together to create one masterpiece that combined two or three paintings. And that was interesting, but none of these have sold really, really well. They've sold okay, but not outdoing Starry Night, for example, which is typically one of the strongest sellers.
And then, because this art was created, 200 years ago, 100 years? 100?
Yep, around there.
There are no copyrights for it. You're able to just use it.
Yeah, so everything we deal in is in the public domain.
Okay.
And the copyright law is complicated, and we've learned what we had to because of the business we're in. But I'm definitely not a lawyer. If it was done prior to 1923, in most cases, a very, very vast majority of cases, it is public domain. So 100 years ago or so. Most of the art is actually public domain if it's prior to 1927.
And
I
that's
don't remember the reasoning.
all countries, pretty much across the board.
That's where the limitation is, because there's different treaties that affect the different countries, and there's art that is in public domain in the United States, but not in Europe and things like that. There is, but in the United States, most art is public domain prior to 1927, and there's quite a lot prior to 1964. We don't really mess with that because it's too complicated and we don't want to make a mistake. So we're staying 99% of the time, we're staying prior to 1923. So
yeah, because all those Warhols will be available pretty soon then, huh?
yeah,
And Picasso.
yeah.
When was Picasso around?
Well, he died in 1973, but he has produced for many, many years. So he has a lot of stuff that's prior to 1923.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you've got some Picassos on your store too?
I don't right now, but that's probably something that's going to be coming.
Yeah. So walk me through, you said, walk me through your operational system, because the people are painting it are not in America, right?
Right. So this is kind of a critical thing that we build that we feel is a competitive advantage. So we work directly with studios in overseas. And we built a very visual supply chain software. Using the supply chain software, we can create an order for the studio. Then the order would have obviously imagery, it's got part numbers and these kind of things, and the quantity that they need to make. They then produce it and upload an image. When they upload the image, we can quality control the product visually remotely and say, okay, approve or not approve. Once we approve it, they basically load it on a shipment for us, and then we'll pull the inventory as we need it. So we'll load the shipment in and ship the product and bring it into our facility. So what you see on the site is an image of the reproduction, not the original. And once you order it, in most cases, I will ship next day. And so you will get it, depending on where you're at, 3 days, 4 days, and you will get it. In order to do that, because art is, when you deal with art, you are very broad and very shallow as far as your inventory, because you got to hold variety. And so we end up having to anticipate what's going to sell and what's not, how many to hold of each piece. And because a lot of it is slow moving, it's very difficult to do. So we built a fairly sophisticated supply chain tool that basically it's a demand planning tool that tells us how many to order of each painting and how many to bring in of each painting. And that allows us to hold stock profitably. It's not so simple to do. And that is something our direct competition, typically doesn't do. They will make the painting based on your order, and then you have to wait between 30 and 90 days, depending on the product.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, of course, there's trade-offs and all that. Your customers are pretty aware of that difference between you and your competitors. Is that like the big selling point that you're doing, or why are people coming to you guys?
So I mean, I don't know that they are aware of the process, but I don't know when that started, but probably 10, 15 years ago, Amazon kind of started changing the calculus in people's minds. Now, when they introduced Prime, you can get it in 2 days. All of a sudden, that kind of became the thing everybody wanted. If you go back to like the 90s or so, you order something on a catalog, you're happy if it comes in 3 weeks. And now you're not happy if it's not in 2 days. And so once they change that, people are saying, oh, I like it, but I want it now. Once they press the buy button, I want it already in my place. And so the closer you can get it to that kind of service, obviously you can't, I can't get it to them right away, but the closest you can get to that, the better you are. And so I know they're not aware of what it takes to do it, but they appreciate the fact that they can get it rather quickly as opposed to having to wait. Unless they do custom. When people do custom stuff, they understand.
Right. Now,
and some people are looking for that. Some people they would only buy custom. They would only because they wanna shop this way.
Yeah. Now I notice your website is not running on Shopify, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Is this like a custom build or?
Yeah. Well, the base is OpenCart, but it is completely customized. So it is very customized.
Walk me through that decision and what it's like to maintain a custom website.
When we decided to do this, Shopify wasn't what Shopify is now. So that's part of the decision. Big part of it is cost. It's a lot less expensive to maintain this compared to maintaining a Shopify store with all the plugins and such. Shopify has advantages. There's a lot of things that are built in or that you can buy and activate right away. Our choice was to kind of keep costs low, develop it. My brother manages all of our development projects, and we work with developers in mostly Eastern Europe. And so development costs are relatively low. We can get things done rather quickly, good quality. And so that has been kind of the reasoning for us. It's not to say that we won't look at Shopify one day and say, you know what, all these tools are just too good to pass up.
Yeah. I mean, so have you been running this platform for how many years now? Has it been like pretty much since you started? Did you start an OverstockArt or?
No. So we were a Yahoo store for many years. So remember, we starting at 2001, 2002, not a lot of e-commerce options available. The Yahoo store was maybe the best option back then. It was inexpensive to get started. We actually didn't have a lot of technological skill back then, and we needed, that type of a solution. And we were with them for a long time, kind of grown to hate them at the end. It's not their fault. A lot of times, just you hate all the limitations,
Yeah.
And I think we moved in 2016 is when we made the move.
Was that, I know this is 8 years ago, but did you see a significant difference in the performance of your website when you made that shift in platform?
Initially, we saw a drop. There is a lot of moving parts into when you look at your performance this month compared to last month. It's very hard to isolate because you're doing more than one thing. Have you done something different here or something different there? I believe that initially the difference was the fact that our customers were used to a certain degree of navigation or a certain type of navigation, and they was different for them. So it was more difficult all of a sudden, even though maybe it was easier for a new person, but for the existing, which is a big part of the purchases, I think that's what caused an initial drop. So after that, we did see an increase, but initially, I want to say the first 3 months or so were down.
I would echo that as well. When we changed from, we had this basic free template from Shopify when we started, and then we swapped to this like custom built, like $30,000 website, and then like conversion rates dropped, on launch, and you're like, oh my God, not only did I pay a lot of money. I think the lesson in there for me, for anyone listening, if you're thinking about doing an overhaul, is if you're moving tech, ideally you try to keep the website as close to your existing website as possible, and then come up with like a 12-month plan or something like that, where you gradually move it to your preferred setting, and then you kind of make those changes one at a time, so you can see if, all right, well, this is a better change, this is not a better change. If I had if I were doing it again. And then I'm a big believer in like, just get a premium template from Shopify and work off of that rather than building it from the ground up, unless you have very specific needs. Like I would imagine that you had when you did this in 2016. I don't think Shopify could handle like the different frame sizes and the different variations and um, all the customization that you have on the store. Is that right?
I don't know what they had, but a lot of tools did not. We have a complexity in operation and a complexity in tech because of the options of framing and art, and it's not just putting them together. It's how do you visually show it. And honestly, I think we can do a better job than we are doing today. It's something that we want to work on. But that has been a limitation every time we looked at it. I want to mention one more thing to kind of just echo what you were saying is the expectation when you make a big move, you're spending $30,000 on a new template. The expectation is I'm going to increase my sales or my conversion or some metric like this by a lot. And then you see a drop. But I think you need to set the correct expectation that there's potentially going to be a drop initially. So by when do I want to see the growth again? And that's something that we always have to consider every time we make a change, big or small, is will there be a drop at the beginning? And so when should I expect the turn back? So it's some changes could be instantaneous, but some changes it's not. It's if it's a big change, you're very likely to see a drop.
Yeah. The only time I would recommend a big change is if your website is like a cataclysmic failure to begin with. Like your conversion rate is like, for a $50 product, your conversion rate is like 0.2% or something like that.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you get a lot of bounces and a lot of drops and it's slow.
Yeah,
That would be the only time I would do an overhaul. Like if you're in
yeah,
that 1 to 3%, I would think about more of like, how do I iterate and test and
yeah,
improve the current website and keep it as similar as possible.
yeah.
Now you've got a couple of websites, don't you? A couple of brands?
We do. So we have artistb.com, which is where we have prints of emerging artists, but we all of our sales are happening on
Okay.
overstockart.com. The other website is really a place where the artists can load their art and create these kind of things, and then we take the art. And once we move it to OverstockArt, and then we can move it to marketplaces, things like that, that's when you really start selling. So we'll see a sale here, a sale there, but it's not something we push at all.
Yeah. Do you think it would be wise to shut that down and have more focus on Overstock?
Um, I think it's a great question. We are investing so little in maintaining it that it's not costly to keep, and it's not costly in attention, and it's not costly in dollars. So that's how it lasts. Otherwise, maybe it's not. We are producing producing revenue selling those prints, but we're not really producing revenue off of that site. However, maintaining a good flow of good art like this is important to us. So we've got to kind of figure out how to do
Yeah.
that. So I don't know. It may be. I guess that's kind of a wishy-washy answer, but that's kind of where my head is. So.
Yeah. I mean, I always think about like when you have, and I'm the king of having side projects that never get off the ground. I think probably a lot of listeners can resonate with that as well. It's like you have, there's always like an unseen risk that you have too. Like, is that an open cart website? If it doesn't get updated, if it gets hacked, if the data leaks, and then you open yourself
Yeah.
up to a legal liability for something that wasn't making any money. Or, in my case, I'm getting sued right now for, ADA compliance. So you have two websites and you have one website that could potentially get tagged by one of these lawyers that are essentially ambulance chasers. And then you have to deal with the lawsuit now for a website that wasn't doing anything.
I am sorry to hear that. Actually, it's a very annoying thing to have to deal with.
Have you had to deal with that at all, or
Not with the ADA, but I've dealt with legal issues before. Some employee related in the past. We had some copyright issues. I'd say in 2013, we almost went out of business We had to take down a ton of art that was questionable from a copyright standpoint, mostly our ignorance. Um, Follow the instructions, but had to pay attorneys, negotiate, and the stress was, you know, I know your listeners can't see my arms, but
He was totally
and
stressed out.
and it was difficult, and it was so frustrating and so dangerous for us. And yeah, it was just I don't wish it on anybody, and but sometimes it just
Was it
um,
multiple creators who came after you, or was it a single artist or
it,
something? Or walk me through what happened then. That's pretty interesting.
so the main artist was Picasso. But there were other that was kind of bundled into it. It wasn't directly with them, but it was through a separate group. And basically, I'll back up just a little bit to kind of get some operational stuff in there. 2012 was a really, really strong year for us, and our studios were having a hard time keeping up with demand. Then early 2013, we are at the same kind of pace as far as sales. And all of a sudden, we get this and we have to take down a huge percentage of our stock that we have available. Plus, we are still getting shipments with this product because we ordered it. And so I'm paying for product I can't sell. And I also don't have the product I want to sell. And so my sales drop down 50% or something like that. Costs, however, are not dropping, as you might imagine. And so we're in this kind of a situation where your sales are dropping, your costs are staying the same, and you're just going, through all your cash. And, I had to put money back into the company. At the same time, you're not focused on increasing sales because you're focused on solving the legal problem, which you have to, because if you don't solve that, forget about it. Nothing else matters. So I don't know that I got a great advice out of this other than um, the scars of somebody who's been through it. I think the biggest piece of advice for a young listener that hasn't been through this but is pursuing growth in his business is be ready, because it can happen, and it can come out of it will come out from an area that you do not expect, because that's typically what happens. And you just got to persevere. You got to get through the tough times, figure out what do I need to do to survive this week, next month, knowing that once you get past it, you'll go back to growth and you'll go back to doing what you've been doing. And so it's hard in the moment. It's a lot easier later on. So
Yeah, I mean, 2023 was that year for me. We were
oh wow.
in business for 10 years, and it's like it shouldn't happen at 10 years in. Happened like 10 years in for you as well. And then a lot of cash went out the business, and a series of mistakes. And of course, it wasn't anything like legal like that, but it was just poor operational decisions and marketing decisions. And this year it feels like it's slow to get out. Was it a rocket ship, or how long did it take to kind of get that traction when you reallocated your inventory strategy?
Oh, it probably took us until 2016 is when we truly turned the corner. But we weren't out of the woods when we turned the corner. So we strung along for a long time. And 2016 was definitely like all of a sudden we saw things are better. Then 2017 came, and we start feeling good, start seeing real success. And the holiday season would just break out. We were all of a sudden flush with cash again, and doing the things we want to do and not just things we have to do. So that's how long it took. It is a long time.
Yeah, I don't
uh,
know if this is really interesting, because like you've been doing this for a couple of decades. Most entrepreneurs seem to like want to flip businesses and sell it and get out of it.
yeah.
How do you stay connected to your business for so long? And is this the plan until you hit the gravestone, I guess, or pass it on to the
uh,
kids, or like
the way I look at it is, you build your goal should be to build a great business. And if you're having fun, if life's good, then why not keep doing it? And if you sold it, I was actually talking to a good friend of mine a long, long time ago, and I was telling him, I'm thinking of raising capital. And he's like, why? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll sell a piece and this and that. Like, what would you do differently if you sold the whole business? What would you do differently? I'm like, I don't know. I would start another business and do what? Do what I do. And so, like, why do it? We know kind of where I'm going with this. And so, if the perfect opportunity presents itself, if there was an opportunity to sell a part, if there was an opportunity to sell all of it, and everything kind of fit, then maybe, but I'm not seeking it. I just want to build a great company and I want to have fun doing it. And if it means staying doing what I'm doing, that's great. And if it means that we have an opportunity and we can leverage and do something else, I'd do that. I'm very intrigued by the software business. So that may be something, but I don't feel that I had the bandwidth to really push another company. And so that's why we're not doing it like in conjunction. So we have some interest in things like that. But to me, if you set out to just build something amazing, then everything flows from there. I don't see a reason to go do something else. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, you're speaking my language. Like that's kind of how I see the world. It's like for a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this mindset that you're not a real entrepreneur until you sell your business. And then the question I always ask is to do what, and a lot of times they've built the business a wrong way, in a way they don't like it. They don't like their employees. They don't like their customers. They don't like their products. And it's like, well, you own the business. So if you can't make your own business that you currently have enjoyable, what's to say the next one won't deal with the same fate? So it's like, you can fix your current business. Your current business can do whatever you want. You own it. Maybe with the exception of people who, have sold 90% of it and, they're really not connected to the business. I can understand stuff like that where they want to have that full control. But, for people who have bootstrapped and they own it, it's like, you're in control. I mean, you could completely change the name of the business. You could change the product offering. You can do whatever you want to do. It's all yours. Like no one's telling you what to do. I still think it's quite amazing that I'm going to call it suffering because that's what business is for a period of time. You were suffering for 3 years. You had this terrible downside. You had this moving sideways for 3 years. Did you ever doubt you were going to get out of it?
It's very easy to look back and say, no, I had no doubt, but it's not true. I doubt it. I think for a period of time, I was relatively convinced we'll go under because I was just shoving money into the company was the only way we could meet our obligations. And luckily I had some. I would say that I had plenty of doubts for a long time. I just didn't, I believed in what I was doing. I believed in our mission and I believed we can come through on the other side. But it wasn't without its doubts and without its difficulties. So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the, thought processes I have is like up to this point, Beard Brand has, done well for the Bandholz family and my business partners. And the fear is like, I would hate for Beard Brand to also give, it giveth and it taketh away. Like this idea that you're pulling back out of your personal savings to this business, it is, Stacy's is that your wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a husband and wife thing. Like it's work, 100% of the time. Like I've got to imagine like as your personal savings start to dwindle, that's got to get like really stressful. I don't know how close it got to like your comfort level or if you can handle that as it gets really lean. But yeah, that's always one of my fears in the business is like putting more money into it and then never getting it out again.
Yeah. I mean, it's a decision that you make, and every decision you make has consequences in life, and never more than when you own your own business, you run your own show. I think I'm going to get a little philosophical, but I think life's full of people that want the power, want to pound on their chest and be big, but don't want to own the responsibility. And for a person like that, I don't think you should own your own business, because it is so it is uncommon to not run into any issues. It happens. I'm sure some people just smooth sailing and they build a company from zero and get to $1 billion in 3 years. I'm sure that happens. I just think that's the exception. I think even the amazing successes that that you only read in the Wall Street Journal about and such, I think even these guys run through really difficult times. And so if you're not willing to own it all, so to speak, if you're not, you get the power, you get the control, because like you said earlier, this is your business, you can make the decisions, but at the same time you have to make sure that you are comfortable with truly owning the responsibility. And so I mean, this was not a fun time for us, and this was a rough, and we just have, and I had little kids, and so there was a true repercussion. But if you're willing to step up, if you're willing to do the work, and you believe in yourself, you believe in the team that you built, then let's go to town, let's go do it. And you just slowly but surely, you just push through another obstacle, and you break through.
What other advice do you have for younger or newer entrepreneurs who maybe haven't faced all the battles and struggles that you faced in your multi-decade?
I actually think that maybe the number one advice that I would have for younger entrepreneurs, and older in many cases, is not around so much just the battles, but it's take time to think. And during this time, I would go out of the office almost every Friday, and I'll spend maybe a couple of hours at the office, and then I'd leave. And I would not just goof around, I would actually sit down, usually at a coffee shop somewhere, with a pen of paper, and simply write. I'll think of a question, think of a topic, and I'll start writing, and then read what I wrote, and write, just kind of do some sessions of thinking. And I think that's how you can come up with solutions, with ideas that were not necessarily, that would not have come up any other way. And it's hard to do for entrepreneurs, because the reason you're successful, or the reason you're able to even just get started, is because entrepreneurs have propensity towards action. You see something, you go after it. And so it's hard to just sit there and think about my next move. But as your business maybe scales a little bit, or at any stage, if you start thinking, how do I solve this problem better than somebody else? You could develop an edge that you didn't think about. And so that's my biggest advice. I think it's been strong for me. And believe me, it's hard to do, because we're not conditioned to do it. But you stick to it, and you do it, and you get better.
Where can people follow you, reach out to you, connect you, support what you're doing, buy from you?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Where can people find you, reach out to you, or support you?
So OverstockArt.com is our site. Everything is there, 100%. My personal email is dsasson@overstockart.com. Feel free to email me about anything. D like David, and then Sasson, and then our company name. I'd love to hear from anybody. So yeah.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you sharing your battle stories. As we say, a beard brand battle scars proudly shown. As always, this has been another e-commerce conversations. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Cheers, and keep on growing.
Thank you very much, Eric. It was awesome.